Hi everyone and welcome to our Data One-to-One podcast. My name is Tristan Van Thielen and I'll be your host for today's episode. I'm joined today by CIO of Randstad Belgium, avid skier and all-around great guy, Gunther Ghijsels. Hi Gunther, thanks for being here.
Hi Tristan, happy to be here.
How are you doing today?
Well, I'm pretty fine. Had some traffic to come over here, but it's okay.
Okay, great to hear. Can you maybe briefly introduce yourself for our listeners?
Well, 2016 I joined Randstad as CIO in Belgium. I just have a background in the financial industry, so I have been working before my whole life in financial industries. So if you then come over from finance to HR business, it's a big change that you need to address. But up until now, very happy to be there.
Great to hear. How exactly did you make that switch from finance to being the CIO of Randstad Belgium?
Well, it's all about challenge. I prefer to work in a company that has kind of the same values that I am having. And I had a good connection with a number of people in the company. And you just work for people, you just work for the values behind the company. And you then see what kind of business we're in, building really on the future of people. That's really what I like to be there and really work together with people and make sure that people can just evolve as a person. So that's why I made the choice to move to Randstad.
Yeah, I can tell from experience that working with Randstad is really a pleasure with the people there. What exactly do you do in your role day to day as CIO of Randstad Belgium?
That's actually what I'm wondering as well. What I do the whole day. But of course, I'm busy with the IT part. That's a big topic of mine. I'm as a CIO, you're building the operational stuff from an IT point of view, and also the future. I'm building the future and how we are going to evolve as a company in a world that is becoming more and more digital. So that's actually a big part of my role. But next to my role within IT, I also have a role as head of marketing and business excellence, what you actually can compare with product management. So it gives me a very broad view on all the things that we are doing from a digital point of view.
Okay, very interesting. So Randstad is of course known as the number one HR provider in the world. This podcast is mainly about data. So how exactly does a company in your industry leverage data and analytics, and how does it support your mission?
Well, we do, of course, a lot of things with data. We use it from a purely operational level to steer our business, to make sure that we run all our businesses in an effective and efficient way, that we really see where we need to adapt processes, where we need to adapt the way of working. So that's one standard thing where we use data. But next to that, we are using the data to get the best out of the people that are working for us and to really help companies to grow themselves. Because with all the data that we have, we can help people to grow, we can help companies to grow. And that's actually what we would like to achieve with all the data that we have.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a great mission. So within Randstad as a company, how exactly do you organize around that? Projects, how do you choose which ideas to work on?
Well, we don't do big projects within the Randstad context in Belgium. We are having an agile way of working within the company where we use as a methodology, we use SAFe, and we have actually all businesses around the methodology working together. So which means that we are starting off from what's our vision, what's our mission, where do we want to be as a company within 5 years? It's more of a picture that we are drawing, and a picture which changes every 6 months. Just think on how the world has been changing in the last 12 months. We change the picture on a yearly basis, and we actually have a roadmap, which is a bumpy roadmap towards the future within 4 or 5 years. And that is guiding us on prioritizing, on taking things and on moving forward. So we don't have actually a project that lasts for 2-3 years for the moment.
So yeah, speaking about that, I can imagine this had quite a big impact on your company. Can you maybe give an example of one of those big changes you had to make?
Well, we had a number of big changes, of course, because before everybody was actually used on working from the offices, because we had the impression, the perception that when you select a person that you also need to do this in a physical way. And now we had to do from one day to the other, we had to do everything virtually. Luckily, all our environments were already ready to do all these kind of things in a digital way. So that was a big topic, but actually it was more of a human change trajectory that we need to handle than a technical change that we needed to handle. So that was one big change in how we were working. But at the same time, we were using the data to see what is going to happen within different sectors, because we had a lot of people working in the event sector, for example, with the Randstad environment. And all those kind of people, where did we have to move them? So we need to have data from inside and outside, which allowed us to see what are the sectors that we need to focus on. So this allows us to really focus our sales activities just after the start of COVID to address all the sales activities that we had towards the right companies at the right time. So it's also always using data the way you need it, the way you can use it, and really also see the opportunities to use the data.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. So Randstad, as we mentioned, is a very global company. I can imagine that comes with some challenges, especially when it comes to data and data management. Can you maybe give us some insight in some challenges you've encountered?
Absolutely. We're a global company, but we are not globally organized yet. So it's one of the strategical choices that we have been making over the last 1.5 years, that we want to work more and more globally organized. So which also means that you need to make sure that you get the same data at one moment in time. And there the trouble starts, of course, because each country has its own definitions of data. Even if you think that processes are running equally, they aren't. So you need to address all these kind of difficulties to make sure that you can work as a global company. And more of the companies that we work with are also globally organized, so which means that they are asking us on getting global reporting, getting global insights, which means for us that we need to address this also as a service provider to make sure that you can answer all those requests from the customers that we have.
Yeah, and then being that you're the number one HR provider, how do you kind of stay ahead of the competition, and what role does data and analytics play there?
Well, for us, it's which kind of insights do we get on where the world is going to, where our company is going to, where our talent's going to. We see there's a war for talent going on now for a couple of years, and it's only getting worse and worse. So how can we use these data to make sure that we get people ready for the next stage in their career? That's actually what we are trying to do, and where we try to see how can we use the data for the benefit of the people and for our own benefit, of course, to make sure that we get the right progress. It's also seeing which kind of profiles do we have somewhere in the world that might do the job virtually or might just come over to do some work. So we're trying to see, based on data that we have, how can we leverage all the know-how on a global basis to make sure that we address the needs in all specific countries, in other countries where we are having kind of troubles on getting the right people in the right place. And that's using data on a global level.
Yeah, very, very interesting. We've personally worked together on a project at Randstad. Could you maybe give some insight for our listeners into the scope of that project? What was it about?
Well, we started off the journey by let's just move our old data warehouse environment to a new environment based on financial metrics and based on operational metrics. But we end up with a full business change program. So it has been shifting from a purely technical trajectory that we have been starting off to a full business trajectory that we are now running. We are aiming to bring our analytics environment to the next level of maturity. So which means that we need to come to really analytics that are prescriptive and not just reporting about the past. So that's the ambition that we have. We also need to make sure that this is aligned with what we are doing on a global level. So this is challenging, and it also means that we need to change the mindset of people. So we need to make sure that people are thinking in another way on data and the way we are using data. And that's from my point the thing that we have been underestimating the most over the last year that we have been working in the project.
Yeah, I can imagine the impact that has on the organization. So, well, you chose to work with us. What was for you guys the added value of working with a Google Cloud partner on this project?
Well, for us, working with a Google Cloud partner like Devoteam G Cloud is looking for the experience that you need to drive this kind of project, because we don't want to hassle around with all the technical details which are behind. We want to focus on the business. So we want to have a trustworthy partner for us that is capable on seeing what is possible, what is not possible within this environment. We have chosen for the Google environment just based on the fact that it will allow us in the future more and more machine learning capabilities, and it has really very exciting analytics capabilities built in. But you need the right partner which has also the right access to Google, just to bring all the new things onto the table, and that is really following closely the whole roadmap of Google in that sense.
Yes, thanks. So I know the project is still ongoing. As you said, things are changing rapidly. It's continuously evolving from just being a data moving project to really a company mind shift. What for you has been the impact this project has made so far, and what do you expect it to do in the future?
Well, it has been where it has been in the start an ICT thing to do. It has been a game just let do some technical stuff. It has really been moved to the business environment, where now I think everybody wants to be involved. So that's good. In the past, we had to look for people that wanted to be involved in the project. We have now created so much fuss around the project that everybody wants to say something about it. So which also needs management, of course. But that's a good thing that we really have been making people aware on the value of data and what we need, what we can do with all the data. It also has been the start of a journey where we have more and more in the call it smart analytics side, that we start people on really thinking on what is exactly the problem that we need to solve with data. We have been struggling in the past with we had the solution but not really the problem that we had really good defined or sharply defined. So we also came from a business perspective most of the times immediately with the solution without exactly understanding on what the issue is that we need to tackle. And we have been evolving more and more towards a situation where people now see and understand and feel why we should have a very sharp understanding on what the actual issue is that we need to handle. And that's good, because that also learns us on which kind of data do we need and how do we need to address the quality of the data which is in our environments, because we have a lot of data, but quality isn't always that good. So you need to address also the quality issues that you're having within your data, and that's also a point of attention in the whole project that we are now running.
Right, thanks. One of the interesting things I've also learned from working with you guys is that you put a lot of emphasis on the self-service aspect of working with data. Could you maybe do a little bit of a deep dive in why you think that's so important?
We put a lot of effort in self-service, because if you have 1,000 people using data and asking for analytics, these are 1,000 different opinions that you get at one moment in time. So we are focusing really on how do we put together a well-defined set of data with well-defined definitions. How do we put those together for all our consumers so that they can just do the analytics what they want to get? Because they're in very different situations. We have customers from multinationals to just a local guy in one or the other village that needs only one person to help out for a certain amount of time, and all these kind of reporting is actually different, also needs different attention. So we need to have people to have access to the data that they can really fulfill their needs whenever they want to. And next to that is also we want to have the data for the customers, because we see a lot of our customers that also are requesting a lot of analytics, a lot of reports, and we just want to give openness to what we are doing internally to the customers, because they potentially need to integrate it within their own reporting environments as well. So we're trying to be as open as possible to all the data needs that there are. Of course, we need to respect all the GDPR requirements which are in there and all other legal requirements which are in there, but we try to be as open as possible with all the data that we have.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of working personally. I think it's very challenging to pull off correctly, which is why also you say you have quite a long road ahead of you, but I think it will pay off big time in the future. So yeah, we've talked now about what you have been doing, where you're coming from, what exactly is on the roadmap to make sure you can keep that number one spot, of course, without going too deep into the details.
We also looking to what our competitors doing, of course. We are number one, but we are looking to what competitors are doing, and we are also looking who are the competitors for the moment, because we see a shift, of course, to a number of new players that are popping up. So we also look to how they are using data, the purely digital players, for example, how are they using data? How can we learn from them? Because they potentially have new insights just based on new model that they're coming from. We have the strength that we have also our history with us, because we have a lot of data that we can just add to those kind of new insights, which gives us a broader view on what can happen, might happen. So that's how we try to combine things. We are trying to stay ahead of competition, of course, also based on being open to all kind of new ideas that we have, because we have good people, we have young people, we have older people as well, of course, with great ideas. So we try to really reflect on all the things that we get, on all the ideas that we get, where is the value and how can we use these kind of ideas to differentiate and keep on differentiating on what competitors are doing. And in this world, and that's, I think, a big mindset for a lot of people within our company, is that we talk about ecosystems. And when I was just stating that we are trying to be as open as possible towards data, if you want to function in an ecosystem, and that's the way we are moving to and where we are moving to, ecosystems needs to be openness in data as well. So that's why we try to be to work in that direction, and that should allow us to really stay ahead of competition and really stay on top of on the market.
Okay, interesting. So we've talked now a lot about Randstad as a company, what you're doing. Would like to pull it back again into more you as a person. So we see you as a data leader, as a CIO, someone who's working with data in his day-to-day. What's one decision you wish you had made sooner?
I would have taken the decision much sooner to really break open the whole discussion on data towards the business. I started off with the discussion within the IT part, but I just waited too long before I was really taking my colleagues with me in the board to make sure that they understand what is happening on a data level, and how can they help me to achieve my IT goal, but how can we together with the rest of the board take the company with us to really become a data-driven company. And it's not a one-man show. It's nice that you call me a data leader, but at the end it's teamwork. You need to involve all different people with all different backgrounds in your organization to make sure that you move into the right direction, that you have the same insights and the same vision on where are you going to use data, how are you going to use data, and that everybody is steering in the same way on using the data and going along with data. So that's, from my point of view, a very important learning, that it's a team effort that you need to have. And it's not just somebody that is being a data leader. It's really, it's teamwork. Okay,
so data analytics should be a company-wide effort instead of a...
Absolutely. It's part of our strategy. It's an integral part of our strategy. We want to become a more and more data-driven company. We are tech and touch, as we call it. And the tech is really becoming much more data-driven, less just working on feeling, because we have a lot of experience in the company, but we want to make it really data-driven and combine technology and touch in a well-balanced way.
Okay, very, very interesting. So what's actually the most important characteristic you look for when you think about other data leaders? Maybe people you follow, people you think have an interesting career, interesting views?
It's get to know the business, because if you don't know the business that you're in, if you don't understand all the hot topics which are living within the business, I believe you cannot be a good data leader. You need to understand the day-to-day issues that business people are facing, because I personally like to be involved also in a number of business talks. I'm involved with a number of big customers, which gives me new insights on how we can work, on how we can use data in the working together with customers, with talents. And I think you need to really have the right business connection to do the right things with data.
All right, so you as Randstad, you're already pretty far down your data journey as a company.
I wouldn't call it pretty far. We are just on the road, yeah.
Yeah. So would that then be your biggest advice to companies that are just starting out, to involve the business from the start?
Absolutely, and it's a challenge, because as I was telling, I was starting off this from an IT point of view. Then you get a lot of people involved from a business perspective. But somebody still needs to align all the different visions and all the different way of working. So there's certainly an alignment role that you need to take up as a data leader, and that's actually the role that I try to take: getting everybody aligned, making sure that that everybody's seeing the same vision, and that's how I look to a data leader, and making sure that everybody is involved. It's teamwork, like I was saying.
All right, and is there also a pitfall you can warn people about, something for sure not to do?
Yeah, absolutely, because if you look to data, a lot has to do with legal stuff around data. You have a lot of topics which, from a legal point of view, need also to address, but it's not the only way that can lead the way you work with data. You really need to work together with business leaders, that they also understand on how to use data and what are still the opportunities to use the data. Because if you only adhere to the legal stuff, you need to adhere to the legal stuff which is around data. But it's also something that you need to address together with the business leaders. They need to understand what's the impact in their daily operational life on the legal requirements which are in there. So one of the pitfalls is just don't do it in a separated, siloed way. Don't just see what are the non-functional requirements, for example, from a legal perspective, but really integrate all this kind of stuff as well in the functional requirements that you get with your business users, so that it is a coherent topic in total.
All right, thanks a lot for the answer. I think that's going to conclude the interview for today. Thanks again, Gunther, for the great insights you've given us. I think it was a very interesting discussion for me personally. I hope our listeners enjoyed as well. Gunther, thanks again.
You're welcome.
Right, everyone, that's it for today.